Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
I'm Audley Stevenson. Greetings and salutations. It's a pleasure to be here. This by far is the most audacious podcast on the web. So formally welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a pleasure to be here as we continue our goal, and it hasn't changed. We've been on this pathway from day one, and we're here to help you live your best audacious life ever. Our social media channels are just one of the great ways you can always connect with us, and I'd encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, share, retweet, however you spread the word out. We'd encourage you to do so. There's a great episode on deck coming up here, and it's going to feature a delightful conversation I had with Guy Finley. Guy, of course, is a self-help writer. He's a philosopher, spiritual teacher, and get this, he's a former professional songwriter and musician. In fact, he was one of the very first soft rock artists that signed to Motown Records back in 1971. So I thought that was kind of neat. I'm just thinking the idea of hanging out at Berry Gordy's house or playing backgammon with Diana Ross is just really kind of cool in my books. Anyhow, I digress. I get back to Guy because he and I touched on a bunch of great topics: responding to change, dealing with fear, understanding our personal why and what that is. So great conversation. You might be familiar with his book. It's an international bestseller. It's The Secret of Letting Go. It sold millions around the world. It's filled with all sorts of great tools and strategies on letting go of old baggage. Now, make no mistake about it, letting go is a tough thing to do. And in fact, it's one of those things that is far easier to say than to actually do. But I can tell you it's completely necessary in order for us to grow, elevate, and evolve, and then ultimately be able to make a difference to others, because we're still being held back by this baggage. And when we don't let go of old baggage and allow it to take up space in our lives, we're absolutely holding ourselves back. It's kind of like an anchor would hold back a ship in the harbor, and we don't go anywhere. We let go. The best way to let go is really by developing a self-understanding to help us recognizing that the sooner that we get rid of the old miserable and make way for the new and wonderful, we are halfway there to that path of happiness. Like I said, Guy and I had a wonderful chat that I think you'll enjoy. Definitely you'll find it uplifting. So without any further ado, here's my convo with Guy Finley. Enjoy. Guy Finley is an internationally renowned spiritual teacher, realization coach, and author. His message of self-liberation has touched people around the world, and his teachings provide the key skills needed to extinguish self-defeating thoughts and habits that undermine true happiness. Guy is up next on the Audacious Living Podcast. Yes. So let's start there. So as you said, you're bold. Let's start with the definition of boldness. Then let's start there.
In the end, what is boldness? If it's brash, it's no good.
Right.
Brash is trash as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And certainly timidity is a terrible way to go through this life. Always fearing the worst. And because of fearing the worst, getting the worst from life. So somewhere in between timidity and brash, there is what I would call the golden mean. What is this boldness that helps a person, let's be clear, for me, not succeed in business or, winning social prominence and all the rest of that, which is a stage that people have to go through. And I'm not denigrating that. Part of our path is discovering that no matter what we achieve in the world, it's not going to answer a divine dissatisfaction, because in the end, that's what all dissatisfaction is. We're not connected to the source of our life.
Gotcha.
So real boldness for me isn't pretending that I'm not afraid, but understanding that fear is rooted in a lie. And when you can understand that fear is rooted in a lie, then you go into those moments where opportunity knocks, so to speak, which isn't, again, for me, it's always a little right-hand turn here, where you recognize, look, I have a choice. I can listen to essentially my past, because no man, no woman has fear that isn't listening to some kind of content from some condition in the past, showing them negatively the outcome of their aspiration. So if people like to write things down, this is good to write down. There is no such thing as psychological fear without negative imagination. There is no such thing as psychological fear without negative imagination. So what that means, if I can wake up in the moment, I don't need power. I don't need to look in the mirror and go, you look at you. You are unbelievable. Yeah, go get them, buddy. I know you can do this. All that, again, maybe people have to do that. I get it.
Sure.
But in the end, what I have to do is not look for power, but realize where I'm agreeing to be powerless.
Yes.
If I can get that far, I have a fighting chance.
Gotcha.
And what I'm fighting for isn't really to succeed the way I think success is, because real success is understanding that who and what I am is created to succeed, no matter what I do, where I go, if my first wish is to grow in self-understanding.
Gotcha. I want to go back to what you said, that, fear is a lie. And why that's such a profound point, Guy, is that the fact that so many are allowing fear to become much bigger than it really needs to be in their lives, or take up more space than necessary.
Yeah, oddly, like, your nature, your full-blown capital A type, like me, I came into this world. I had great parents, dysfunctional but great.
Yeah.
And they loved me and they encouraged me, and so, with that beginning, fear isn't always there.
Right.
So we have to understand that fear has a lot to do with our conditioning and our environment, our culture, our family. And that when a person is afraid, and this is very pertinent to what we're looking at, it isn't his fear. It isn't her fear any more than it's my love and Audley's love. There is fear, there is compassion, there is love. There are these qualities and characteristics that by nature are celestial. They belong to our consciousness, not just Audley's, not just Guy's, but that which we as human beings are bonded in and chained by, if that's the case, so that we can understand that judging ourselves for having fear is fear's action.
Yeah, right.
So see, everything has to begin in the right place. That's the whole of my work. If I can start in the right place with which is the wish to learn something new and true about myself, then every one of those moments becomes an advantage, because I leave the moment a wiser man, a wiser woman than the one who went into that moment. And that's success.
Yes. So much of success starts with an acknowledgement or a self-acknowledgement. So we can talk about these things, we can read the books, we can go to the seminars, we can listen to the podcast, but the work starts inside of us.
Absolutely.
And until that first, and that's really the first step, until that first step is made, we're not going anywhere.
What does it profit a man to have gained the whole world and lost his soul? There's no, do you know the original meaning of the word profit in the old language, oddly?
No, what is that?
It's pretty cool. It means to ascend.
Oh, okay.
Not line your pockets,
Right.
not have people going, man, you fantastic. That's what my father thought success was. God bless his soul. That's what the majority of the world thinks success is. The majority of the world thinks that success is being able to cover up fear. I say that real success is uncovering the fearful nature and freeing yourself from it. Then you are successful. And it doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter what happens to you, you leave the moment you win into a wealthier individual that you leave it wealthier than the one who came into it.
Right.
Because you've profited.
You've ascended.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and I've even found within myself, just before you're about to, do something extraordinary or bigger or whatever, there's a little pit in your stomach, right? Where you feel something and you go, okay. And you act in spite of it, you do it anyways. I think oftentimes it happens, people interpret that inkling, that feeling that they get as fear. And that's what they allow to get bigger. And that's what they allow to hold them back or prevent them. But that feeling, the way I interpret that, if you have that feeling, then you're doing the right thing. You're going in the right direction because it's uncomfortable. You're not comfortable.
Yeah, I like that, oddly. I like that quite a bit. Because, you see, look, everybody, all of us do the best we know how to do in the moment. Mm-hmm. Nobody would take that away. Even a guy sitting there holding a gun to somebody's head is actually doing the best that person knows how to do. But just because that's the best I know how to do in the moment doesn't mean that's the best I can be, because I can start to understand what it is that's moving me to do these things against myself or others. So with that in mind, listeners, you might want to write this down. Christ spoke of this word repent, which was completely messed up, had nothing to do with this incredibly painful, false morality that is trying to be legislated today. Repent, the word was metanoia, and it means to have a new mind, to turn around. So without new understanding, I can't see the moment new. I see the moment from who I have been, what I've done, all that conditioning, the fear, the sense of being not enough, or the idiot brashness that I can do this, nothing's going to stop me. All the same consciousness. Can I see the moment through a new idea? This is really the essence of all true scripture, is seeding the consciousness with new ideas. Here's one you might want to write down with that introduction in mind. Limitation is invitation. Limitation is invitation. But you see, when the moment comes and I meet the limitation, it doesn't feel like there's something wrong to me. It seems natural. I need to protect myself here, because if I go into this moment and I fail, I'm going to be ridiculed, or I'll hate myself again. So that when that moment comes, as you said, the pit in the stomach, that pit in the stomach is the opportunity to leave the pit consciousness that we fall into every time we allow a fear to become, I'm going to be strong, not just our guide, but our God. Because when you listen to fear tell you who you are, what you can do, what are your possibilities, every decision you make thereafter has been predicated by a punishing God, an evil nature that wants to ensure you remain in service to it. So we're learning to understand this so clearly that here's the pit in my stomach. I want to try something new. I want to open my own business. I want to go where no one's gone before. Oh, sorry, guy. Remember, that didn't work out so good. Besides, who are you? You don't have an education, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, or sometimes like, oh, remember, it didn't work out for that other person.
Exactly.
Because it may not be an our issue.
Exactly. Look what happened to your brother. He became a drug addict, whatever.
Right.
To understand in that moment that what's talking to you is not you. This is big stuff. It's not you. Anything that denigrates, anything that wants to drag you down, anything that wants to decide for you what your possibilities are before you take action to discover them yourselves, that is your enemy. And that's where your struggle is, which means the real war is an interior one, not with the man, not with the politic, not with the business, not with the culture, but with the culture of myself, with this government in me that I don't know is there, that really is against all comers.
Yeah, that's an internal battle that we have to win.
Yes, it is. Well, no, listen, it's already won, man.
There we go.
That's the point.
That's right.
It really is. That's what we get to discover. That's what being a truly profitable man or woman is discovering the battle has been won. I may not win it in the moment the way I imagine,
Right.
but when I start to see that my imagination is part of why I'm losing, then I can begin, then I've got boots on the ground.
That's right.
I'm in it to win it because I understand what it means to illuminate the moment instead of try to conquer it.
That's right. That's right. And maybe that moment wasn't your battle to win. Maybe there was another lesson that you were meant to take from that experience.
That's what winning is, oddly. That's the victory, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. I went into this thing and I sat at home and I worked out the conversation. Whether I'm in a meeting or going to a family dinner, they're all brutal. And I'm working out a dialogue because my brother always puts me down. My mom has a tendency to say something that's cruel. There's fighting at the table, and I've got all my plans. Your real life doesn't have a plan.
Yes.
Your business, on the other hand, if you have a business you have to run, you must be practical. But there is nothing practical in any negative anticipation, period.
Got it. Guy, you talk a lot about purpose, and I'd be remiss if we did not take the time and talk about that why and why that why is so important. And I think also too, when we're clear on that why, going back to the conversation we just left around fear, that helps us move through that a lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. And see, this is another issue, but a man or a woman who has any longing whatsoever to continue growing did not put that longing in themselves. The seed doesn't long to become the apple tree. The apple tree is already in the seed. What is true and good and wise and profitable is already in you and me. The task is to give it room to grow, the nourishment it needs, and to take appropriate steps at each level of discovery, so that my purpose turns out to be to use every moment to the best of my capacity. But to use the moment to the best of my capacity requires, hold on, that I'm actually here in this moment. I'm actually answering the purpose of the moment, which is the continual perfection of what we have been given in this life to develop. Did you create oddly?
I did not.
No, you didn't, man. None of us. We'd look a lot better if we created ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was doing all that, I wouldn't have gotten run over by the car. So the fact of the matter is that we are here as creators, oddly. I know that's a part of what you want people to understand. You can create a life that is more fulfilling. But before you create a life that is more fulfilling, or as you're doing it, you must fulfill your purpose as a creation. So you are a creator, but you are a creator after you are a creation. And our first purpose is to fulfill the reason for being a human being. And it isn't so I drive a Porsche. It isn't so that people go, you're a genius. I mean, come on, I wish I could be like you. Because at a certain point, that becomes so empty and futile and meaningless that if you don't have preparation, you won't know what's next. We're talking about what's next. I am intended to be present. I am intended to practice the presence of everything that is given to me, so that whatever I leave this moment with, I leave as a different human being than the one that went into it. You find that road, and there's nothing in this universe that can ever stop you. It's not that you're not going to get angry or frustrated, not that you're not going to get disappointed, feel betrayed. All that's part of the what we call, how do I say this? Most of us think like that moment, that person is in the way.
Right.
No, they're not in the way. They're part of the way. If you can use it, that's the work.
Well, it's that you reference to the discovery period, right? It's that period of discovery where, and during that path, if you will, and we'll use the road analogy, right? As you go along this path, there will be a series of turns we can make either right or left. And sometimes people will perceive the things that don't go the way we want through that exact moment as the wrong move, right? Yeah. And they're all part of that discovery that leads us to our purpose.
There's you triggered a thought. There's a country and western song that I remember when the first time I heard it, I thought, here's a man, he's written a love song, but it's not really, all love songs are not about men and women, as far as I'm concerned. All love songs are about the love that's put in us toward the love that put it there. So the song, because it speaks to what you just said, the title of it is, God bless the road, God bless the broken road that led me home back to you. That's understanding. That to use the unwanted moments changes the consciousness that doesn't know anything other to do than to not want. And we're here to agree with what life wants to teach us about ourselves. And if we get in line with that celestial curriculum, then every moment is a graduating moment. Every moment we get the divine diploma, if you will, that initiates in us a faith. And the faith, as it grows, is the very essence of freedom. Because now we understand fear belongs to a consciousness that creates the conditions it doesn't want, and that brings you there again and again. So you reincarnate, and one day you go, God bless this unwanted moment, because I can see the reason it's not wanted is I have this image of myself as someone that no one should ever talk. Don't you ever talk to me like that. Don't you give me don't you look at me. Now, oddly, don't look at me like that. No, don't do that. That every last one of those moments is an education if we can use it to illuminate the egotistic, arrogant, sleeping self that believes that it's God and that the other God didn't get the memo that you wrote about your life plan. Because you want pain, you got it.
That's it. I love that. Every moment is a graduating moment. And what that really, what I hear in that is a significance of just embracing, right? Yeah. Whatever comes, we embrace it. It serves a purpose, and that's why you ask the question, well, what's the lesson in this? Where is the lesson in this? What should I be doing? What should I take from this? As opposed to closing the door, slamming it, getting under our covers and crying for a week about how bad our life is.
Exactly. You've nailed it, Audley, and it's nice that you feel it and speak it this way, because in the end, we don't triumph by conquering others. We triumph by surrendering ourselves to the part that believes that we can be complete by standing on other people, by accomplishments at the cost, literally, of our own soul. I grew up in a very, very successful show business family, oddly. By the grace of God, I live in a little mountain here in Southern Oregon. I left Beverly Hills 25 years ago, so that hold on. So that I can speak very honestly about this. It is an unbelievable thing that a man or a woman, and we've all done it and we still do, whether it's a business, an ambition, or just a drug habit or a food habit. It could be anything.
Yeah, it could be anything, yeah.
To not see what I'm doing to myself because I'm listening to a part of myself promise me power, pleasure, or possession is to get to own that power, that pleasure or possession, and then realize time and time again, now I am the servant of the thing that I thought would free me. That's how I grew up. I grew up believing that if I just, my partner and I, we were the first soft rock artists ever to sign with Motown Records.
Okay.
Yeah, 1971. And at the time, we were, I couldn't believe, I was so pumped. I'm now an official writer with Joe Bett. I'm going up to Mr. Gordy's house once every week and playing backgammon with Diana Ross. I mean, it's just like a dream come true. And we became successful. And about, 3 years later, I'm sitting at my piano and I'm thinking, I don't really feel like doing this right now, but if I don't get to live where I'm living.
Right. Well, it changes your status, it changes your lifestyle, it changes your world.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then I sat there and I started to cry because I realized, wow, I have actually become, without ever knowing it, not freer, less free, not happier, less happy. Now, we all have those moments. They're inescapable in this life because this consciousness, this sleeping nature, that's how it works. Oh, you look at that. If you could, if you had that, if you did this, if you just got her to say she's sorry, if you just worked it out so they recognized your genius and that you didn't make a mistake, they didn't understand you, whatever that nonsense might be, that everything's going to be great. And you can get the whole world to line up and agree with you, and you will know the whole world is a liar. Because inwardly, you won't be content. Inwardly, you won't be complete. You may have that skyrocket, but there's a whole graveyard of skyrockets on the other side of that hill.
Yeah. And there's so many voices that come out as guy. I mean, there's just so many. And to make that distinction between which one you should be hearing or listening to, and those are the internal ones, right? I'm talking about the ones on the outside that are coming at us, telling us how we should live our lives and how we should grow and what we should look like and all these sorts of things. And that's why you see countless stories of celebrities as an example, that suddenly, we think they have a nervous breakdown or we think they've lost it, but really it's this battle that they just don't know where to go. Exactly.
That's exactly right. We see it everywhere, and we ignore it almost all the time.
Yeah. And a lot of times we see the signs, right? The signs are there. It's not like something just happens, right? It doesn't just happen, but we just kind of move through them like they weren't there.
That's exactly right. By the grace of God, because it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's God's action. The whole idea of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Right. Well, I'm all on board when the teacher comes as, good job, man. You are really, look what you've got. Look what you've done. Look at all this. And I know. I agree. And then somebody looks at me and says, you're a phony. What you're saying isn't true at all, and I can prove it. However, the challenge comes. In that moment, I don't want the teacher.
That's right.
I don't want the lesson, because I think the problem is with the person or that particular moment. Instead of understanding there can't be a problem with a moment that doesn't have a corresponding part in my consciousness. The more I get that, the more willing I am to surrender to the appearance of the teacher. Not my will, but thy will be done. And then you get the whole gestalt of this new understanding where we can meet life looking at it through new eyes.
Right. Well, it'd be kind of nice if the lesson came when I was ready for it. I mean,
No, man, listen to me. You can't be ready for the lesson. That's the beauty of it. Honest to God. The real lesson, there's no way, you can't prepare for what God has in store for you to learn about yourself. Because if you were ready to learn that about yourself, you wouldn't need that person standing in your face or that news report or whatever it was, bringing up all that anger. So you can't prepare for that, but you can agree and promise to meet it with all that you know is true about you and the rest of it. Then you are perfected. And perfection is not something you can prepare for, and it's not something you can even protect. You can only agree to the continual process of being perfected by the appearance of the teacher and agreeing to be the real student. Then you start to understand, well, where is this teacher coming from? Well, wait a minute. Now, that lesson, I didn't want that lesson, but I kind of get it. And then I see all of a sudden a truth. Know the truth that sets you free. Suddenly I see a truth. Well, it was the truth over there. Is the truth over there? No, wait a minute. Mother of pearl, that's in me. I remember that's true, which means that the indwelling divine, the Christ, what you will, that living light, it's not out there. It's in you. That's the teacher. You're the student. And when you become increasingly willing to receive that, you start to recognize this dialogue is always there if I'm listening.
Got you. I think perfected, you use that. I think that's an interesting choice of words, because in my mind, we're a constant work. We're always in, that in construction sign is always up. So it's interesting that you talk about being perfection.
That's what my mother used to tell me. You're really some kind of work.
I love it.
She didn't have the in progress part.
I get you. I think it's only natural that we touch on change and the significance of that. And I think for a lot of people, I think they struggle with this area because, if you're comfortable in what you're doing or how you've been doing things or the way you've been living your life, to suddenly be told or suddenly learn that you've got to divert or go in a different direction, that's tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And there's no question about it. It's probably more evident today. I'm 72 years old. I've never seen anything like the world the way it is today. I mean, God almighty, man. And then add a little sugar and spice of COVID.
Yeah.
And the incredible conflict that keeps trying to escape itself through legislated morality. The reason we need all of that and why it's so difficult is because we're not conscious. A human being who is awake, even in a small way, at least knows when they act against themselves. So the changes that we're looking at here in the world are, if you will, the big teacher. Here's what you're looking at is the result of my consciousness. I don't look at the world and go, boy, look at those people. Look at those people. What's wrong with those people? I understand, because it is human consciousness. I actually should call it human unconsciousness, because I don't really think it's consciousness yet. I'm conscious of my burger. I'm conscious. I love pizza, but I'm not conscious of the fact that love for pizza isn't the same as love for my brother. That's not the same love, because the love for pizza turns into the hate of pizza when they put anchovies on it, right? So you come to me with anchovies on you, man, I want nothing to do with you, right?
Love a burger instead.
So how can I use, now listen, how can I use the immediate appearance of my resistance to what I just saw and heard? Because you can't talk about changes that are tough without talking about my resistance to what I see as being changed. Now, is the world changing? Of course it is. I'm not going to get into better or worse. That's not my concern. This isn't my world. Even though I am a responsible human being in it, my choice is this new kind of profitability. Can I use the moment where something appears and I have this reaction to, instead of looking at something to blame for the reaction, use the moment of change and resistance to it to become conscious of this reactor? What is it in me that believes if I could just push those people into the dirt, that somehow I would be delivered from my pain? No, my pain is because I believe that you have to be pushed into the dirt so that I can be who I think I am. This is why the world is not going to change. Oddly, it's not. It's got to follow a kind of a line, and I don't think it's an upward trending line, to tell you the truth. Civilizations, when they come to an end, like a plate spinning, they get faster and faster and faster, less control. But that doesn't mean that we have to go down with the ship. And if you and I do what we need to do, the listeners joining us understand, then we become part of an individual that works on an individual level to change the whole of consciousness. Because if Audley changes, he doesn't get mad at the person who steps in front of him at the grocery store, or he feels the anger, but he uses it to come awake. The whole store changes. And then the person maybe who jumped in front of you because they thought they could get an advantage, maybe they get to see, you know what? He didn't say anything. So now they get a chance, a little space to see themselves. So we go around by giving ourselves up, creating space for change. Then change becomes ally instead of enemy.
Got you. I oftentimes talk at the end of every podcast episode. I always say the same things. Show love, be compassion, show kindness. And so within even that analogy, the example you gave, it is just that, right? And if we're showing that compassion to one another and we're giving the space, it does wonders for both sides. It really does.
Yes, it does. And it's true. It's true. It's true. And it's hard. And it's hard. And it's hard. Don't walk around with your image of yourself as some, look at me. I'm reborn. I'm this. I'm that. You're asking for the teacher, the very divine that you are you have the wrong relationship with it. It's going to come along. It's going to give you this. And stop looking at others saying you don't recognize how beautiful and loving I am. Because if you could see that you were angry and hateful for someone not seeing you as loving, you'd get it. You're not loving. And you're not meant to be a loving you. You're meant to be someone who loves what is true in you. Do that, and everything else takes its place.
Got you. I have so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Before we go, I want to say thank you. But I do have one last question I want to ask you about, and that's around letting go. Which very much ties into everything that we've been talking up into this point. And I think it kind of puts a nice bow on it because the change has to happen in order to let go. But again, much like we talked about with change, sometimes letting go isn't the easiest thing for people either.
Oh, no, man. Look, letting go is an inside job, not outside. The person who's bothering you, you can let them go. You can move across the country. You'll find another person just like that because use the problem, period. Something in you that you don't know, by grace, continues to attract what that consciousness needs to be perfected instead of believing that it's perfect and proves itself by hating anyone that doesn't agree with that. So yeah, letting go. That's, I speak Oddly 2-3 times a week online for free. And everyone who wants to know a little bit more, that's my best-selling book ever, The Secret of Letting Go. Anybody who wants to know about these ideas, I call it, you and I are sitting here in a nice space acknowledging the truth, but now we must act knowledge. Now I must act knowledge. That's what we have to do. To do that, we need to increase the body of new understanding, get right ideas. If you want more of what we talked about, guyfinley.org/webinar, GUYFINLEY.org/webinar, and come listen 2 or 3 times a week. I never say the same thing. We study these ideas. There's a group of men and women from all over the world. It's free. Just sign on, nothing to join. guyfinley.org/webinar. And of course, even though I don't do it, there's a lot of social net stuff. Just Google Guy Finley, and
Come on, I know you're on. I know you're on IG and you're on Snapchat.
Or just go to my website, guyfinley.org. You can spend years there just with free material. There's a free book right online. So yes.
I'll endorse that because I've spent a lot of time there going through and really appreciating the vast knowledge and insights. And funny, even thinking about today, I knew we could have probably gone on for another 2 hours easily, just talking about all sorts of things. And
yes, we could have.
I really wanted to focus and center on a few things that I think will at least start people's thought process. And I think that's the point. If we can sort of getting people to understand the things that have to take place before we take action, because the action is a big one in all this. Like all the things that we've spoken about over the last half hour, however long it's been, mean nothing if there isn't any action. So
agreed. And let it be action based in awareness, not action born out of fear or ambition. Action based in awareness. Start there, nothing can go wrong. Don't start there, everything goes wrong, even if it takes 50 years to find out.
Well, Guy, listen, I really, really appreciate the time. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Absolutely. I'm glad that we did this, and then all the best.
Yeah, you're a gem. You're a gem, Audley. Keep up your good work. And I'm sure we'll talk again. And when the foundation here in Southern Oregon opens up and you can get out here, you'll be my guest.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Guy. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Back we are here on the podcast. Big shout out to Guy for the convo. Appreciate the great insights. I thought the learnings were incredible. So thank you so much. It was greatly appreciated. When I reflect on my conversation with Guy, certainly one of the points that he made crystal clear that resonated with me, and something I've talked about in the past here on this podcast, is everything that we need is already inside of us. Things like fears, uncertainties, doubts, suspicions, they're going to come no matter what. And there's nothing we can do to avoid them. But do know that everything that is good, everything that's true, everything that's profitable, everything that's noble, we already have it. They're already present inside of us. The job that we have is to make room to allow those things to grow, evolve, and develop, and be present in our lives, right? That's what really it's about. The seed doesn't long to become the apple tree. The apple tree is already inside the seeds. And Guy said that directly. And the sooner more of us can recognize this, the sooner we can step into the individuals that we're meant to be. So thank you again for being here, and keep up all the great work. To our listeners, hey, if you haven't already registered for email notifications of the podcast, you certainly can do so by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, enter in your email address, and you'll be alerted every single time new content comes out. And it's quick, it's easy, no problem at all. To our listeners, thank you, as always, for being here on the podcast. I appreciate it. It's always great sharing. It's always great getting your feedback. And I really, really appreciate the tremendous support. So keep it coming, and we'll keep doing our part as always. We've reached the end of the episode, so until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.